here's Zach. He's going to talk about garlic.
And this is Sheila Capistran, and I'm working with the Regional Sustainable Development Partnership with University of Minnesota Extension, and we're talking about planting garlic. So right now it's mid-October, and that's the time to plant garlic. So what we do is we break up the cloves here. And you want to do this only right before you plant. You don't want to do it weeks in advance, or else the cloves could actually dry out. So you see that I just halved it there, and they don't need to be outside the paper. This is fine with the paper attached. And then I take this bottom part off too and toss it onto the ground here, and that's 2 cloves there. So this is actually a decision if you're going to break these or not. It's definitely 2 cloves, so you can break it. So sometimes you don't want to plant these tiny ones. If you've got a lot of garlic to spare, like I do, a lot of big ones.
Plant the best.
So I'm gonna keep this one for food and only plant the bigger ones. Typically with seed garlic that you plant in the fall, you're saving your bigger head. So this is a bigger garlic head than typically to
What
eat.
variety?
So the variety is called Krasnodar Red. It's got a layer of paper around each leaf. So garlics tend to have about 8 to 10 leaves. There's about 8 to 10 layers like this. So when you're storing them for food, you want to leave as many layers on as possible.
Protection.
Yeah, so I mean, it does look really a lot prettier. If you take 1 or 2 layers off, you get that nice purple. And sometimes you do that to sell them because they're cleaner, but then you only want to do that once. So there's still a few more layers on here, right? So there's a lot of protection if this was for food. And it could be stored all the way until February. If you keep it, just keep it dark and maybe in a closet in a paper bag.
What makes seed saving with garlic different than other crops?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so garlic's really unique as the clove itself is a clone, the same exact genetics as the parent. So there's none of this isolation, there's no flowers involved. It's literally part of the plant. And the really unique thing about garlic too is you think garlic's the root, right? But look at this, that's the root. So what is garlic? Garlic is a swollen part of the leaf. It is literally part of the plant. So it has the same exact genetics as the plant itself. And kind of like potato, you save the tubers, you save the potato to plant the potato. You plant the garlic clove, which will end up turning into an entire head itself. And the difference between garlic and potato is that there's not a lot of disease. So I've saved these for 10 years, and you could just keep saving them for decades, and you're literally saving the same genetics for years and years.
You want to be pretty gentle when you're doing this, I understand.
Yeah, so as a part of the plants that can bruise, and it's still alive right now. The garlic clove is still respiring, it's still breathing. So what would happen to any living being if you banged it on something? It would bruise and it wouldn't last as long. So when you're storing your garlic for seed, you're harvesting in July, so that's a few months before we plant it for seed. So you want high quality seeds, so you don't want to drop it or bang it around. Same thing for food, it'll last longer. So keep your garlic free from being banged around, and you'll have a
better chance at success.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just gonna fertilize the ground as we plant, and then till in that fertilization. I use pelletized chicken manure. It's a good source of nitrogen. As I was saying, garlic is part of the leaf. And now that we're spreading fertilizer in the fall, it'll kind of slow up. The garlic will start to grow for the first 2 to 4 weeks in the ground, start setting that, establishing those roots, utilizing a little bit of the fertilizer, but then in the spring, it'll really take it up even more. So it's kind of twofold in the fall, both fall and the spring. So I kind of liberally spread this. If you don't want to do it by hand, you get into the back of a tractor and stuff and just let it go behind you if you don't want to get it on your hands. But it's composted, so just wash your hands after you're done and you're all good. Now we're gonna till that in, and then we're gonna plant our garlic into the tilled soil. So this is called a grillo. It works really well for a smaller farm, like a 1 or 2 acre vegetable farm production. We've got the nice tiller implement in the back. Earth Tools supplies them, and yeah, it's just, I would recommend it for someone who's like going from garden size to a small scale farm to try things out. So what the Grillo tiller did was, we went through this twice, and with garlic you want to really, what we call a friable seed bed. So you see how deep I could stick my hand, pretty deep, right? And I have pretty sandy soil, so that's good for garlic. Clay soil is also good for garlic. But what you really want is this really loose, see how loose it is? The seed bed, that's what you want. Because if your soil is a little compacted, the garlic will have a harder time expanding in that compaction. So just make sure you have this really nice loose soil, and that really helps produce big heads of garlic. All right, so we plant a lot of garlic. We plant about 10,000 of these. So we want to make it efficient when we're doing it by hand. So we've got this nice hog panel here. It's about 12 feet long. I think it's about 4 feet wide. And when you're planting garlic, it needs a lot of sun on both sides. So typically you only want to plant garlic in either 2 or 4 rows. And we're kind of cheating a little bit by doing 6 rows, but we're leaving a space in between. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna leave this space. And the space allows sun to enter these 3 and also enter the next 1, 2, 3. So that way we're utilizing a lot of space in our bed here, and they're gonna get enough sun. If we planted this row here, some of these would get a little choked out and they wouldn't get quite as much sun and heat as they need. Now when we plant, we're gonna take it with the pointy side up and just kind of just shove it into the soil about 2-3 inches. And then move the dirt on top, give it a little pat. We have good soil to clove contact there.
What happens if you got 2 of them, 2 cloves next to each other and you're planting it?
They'd kind of grow a little smaller because they wouldn't have enough space to really grow to their full potential. And typically 6 inches apart is a really adequate amount of space. These are about probably 7 inches apart this way, but about 6 inches apart this way. So, and another thing to consider is rotating your garlic. As I was saying, garlic doesn't have a lot of disease, but one in particular is called a bloat nematode, and that kind of is an ugly disease. It makes the garlic smell and it rots fast. And one thing to prevent that from happening if you are planting on a big scale or even a small scale is just rotate where you plant your garlic year to year. So if you've never planted garlic here before, it should be a really good space to rotate them into. It's good to plant with some thought of getting that seed from a seed company rather than just planting the grocery store garlic. You'll have a better chance of having good garlic come up. And what we're gonna do back here is we're gonna spread about anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of mulch on top. And that'll keep the garlic protected for the winter, and also it'll keep some moisture underneath. So we just want to be covering until we don't see dirt anymore, and maybe just a little bit more than that. And then we could put them to bed. And the other reason for kind of spreading it out like this, not just throwing a flake down, is if you did have flakes right on top, or if you did have a big bale and roll a big flake and it was compacted, and the garlic might have a harder chance to get through that compaction. And this will compact a little with the snow. So better to sift it like Sheila's doing and shift the little stalks of straw here over it. We just planted our garlic with Sheila in October, end of October, November, early November. Now it's June 28th. It's a little late for for picking scapes, but that's the way it works. It's all about the indicator. So scapes come up in hardneck garlic. They're the flower of the garlic, and you actually have to pick them at the right time to send the energy back down into the garlic head to make the biggest bulb that you could possibly get. So this is a good example of a garlic scape that is at prime picking stage. So you can see it's got this tiny little curve right here. So that's one indicator. The other indicator is a single loop. And then the third indicator, there's a little line right here where this arrowhead has. And if this line is past this line, just like that, even if it's displaced a little bit, then that's also a prime indicator to pick that scape. They all come out at different days, even in the same variety. So I'm going to show you some different stages here. So this is when the scape first comes out. It doesn't really have that loop yet, so this is a little early. This one is that prime picking stage again. So you can see it's just forming the arc right there. And then this one's got a double loop. It's not so bad, but you should pick this one right away because it's a little bit later. And then if you waited even past this, this garlic flower would shoot up and it would send a lot of energy up and out of your garlic, which is really bad. So it's important to pick the scapes at the right time, and at the pinnacle time, you're sending the energy back down into the garlic head at the time where the garlic is thinking about reproduction. So it's thinking about making the biggest possible chance to grow for the next year. Not the flower, but the bulb. I take the scape from the base and then you just snap it off. Easy as that. Here's a bin of scapes, pre-picked scapes right here. They're pretty much all ready for picking right now. They're actually a little bit even over that stage. You can see the double loops. So take a look at this one here. This one's got pretty much a double loop, so really good for picking. I'm just gonna take my fingers here and just give it a quick snap. And there you go. So I'm just gonna pick a little bit more. They're all pretty much ready to go. None of these are too early. And in fact, it's probably like 2 or 3 days a little late, but you know, getting to them is super important, so we wanna get them all. So this one's a little early. You can see that, right? It's not completely looped around. So I'm just gonna leave that one there. This one might be ready by tomorrow. So you gotta check them every day. Might be ready in 2 days. So once scapes come, it's an everyday thing. It's just like green beans. In fact, it's even faster than that. So you really wanna make sure you check them every day. See, I picked this one. Even though this one didn't give the loop, this is kind of an exception. We've got that other indicator, that curve, right? So something was blocking this one from making the loop, probably another leaf. So it was out here trying to make that loop and it was still giving that curve. So this wasn't a mistake. This was a good one to pick. So scapes are a great bumper crop for your garlic. What I do is usually I cut off the woody part and then I cut off the kind of the fibrous arrow part here. This isn't too great for eating. It's very fibrous, so you could slice that off with a knife. But now you got this delicious middle part of your garlic. You could throw in some eggs or grill up or throw in a burger. People pickle these too. You could actually put them around a mason jar. You could kind of imagine like that. Stick them down there and pickle them. They store really well. Just store them right in the fridge in a bag. We've had them store all the way to next January, believe it or not. So they store really well. And yeah, enjoy garlic scape picking and eating. So now it's time to harvest the garlic. It's in the beginning of August right now. But the time of year doesn't matter so much as the indicator. And what I like to use as the indicator as 1/3 of the garlic leaves dying. So most garlic has about 9 leaves. So if it has 3 leaves dead, then that's good. So we'll look here. You can see the first 3 leaves are dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one had 8 and 3 are dead. So it's the perfect time to harvest. I like to grab the garlic by all the leaves in one hand because all these leaves are attached around the clove. So it's all protecting it. And then take your other hand and pull up, straight up, like so. And now we have these big chunks of dirt around the garlic. So you're gonna wanna rub the big chunks off. I like to just lay it down, and then you can keep going down the aisle here. So rub the big chunks off, and then we're laying the garlic down. You don't wanna really have too much sun when you're doing this. You wanna harvest when it's a little shady out, or put the garlic under something that's shaded. And then we're gonna show you the curing process, where we're gonna put all these in a shaded area like a barn or a shed, and then constantly have airflow on the garlic for about 3 weeks. And then your garlic's gonna be cured at that point. And then it'll be cured for the whole, almost about like 6 to 8 months. So store it in as cold and as dry as you can. So the best environment to store garlic would be like 45, 50 degrees and in a dry area. And that should last you until next March. So the garlic has been curing with the fans blowing for about 2.5 weeks. And now we're processing the rest. So we're gonna cut the garlic at about 1.5 inches and cutting the roots. You could clean the garlic by taking back some of the peel. So here's a good example of one that's perfectly clean. These are good for selling for food. You can see the difference here, you know, you got the dirt, no dirt. This one's ready to go to the grocery store to sell in the market. That's all there is to processing garlic.